Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 187 of the Junkies Podcast. Today I'm chatting with Adam Booth, also known as ABOM79. Adam is a machinist, a welder, and a YouTuber who does instructional videos on machining repairs and custom parts. Today we discuss his machining and welding journey, his passion for traveling, and even talk a little bit about barbecue. But before we get into today's episode, a quick word from the supporters of the show. Today's episode of the Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. Rockmount makes some of the coolest electrodes you never knew existed. Check out their website, rockmountwelding.com, and review their full list of consumables to include specialty welding rods and wires for dissimilar metals, cast steels and cast irons, special alloys, and even rods for unidentifiable steels. They even have a full line of hard facing and surfacing products to protect, rebuild, and repair all of those attachments to keep them from getting worn down. While you're over there, make sure to check out their selection of burr bits, grinding discs, and now Rockmount's made it even easier to get their products delivered right to your business. Hop on over to mscdirect.com and purchase your Rockmount products directly through their website and get free shipping on all orders of Rockmount products. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. If you've been on the fence about picking up an Everlast machine to start your side business or start your welding journey in the garage or small shop, I highly recommend you start with an Everlast machine. My all-time favorite Everlast machine is the Lightning MTS 275. It's a great multi-process machine that does it all. This thing is capable of MIG, AC and DC TIG with high frequency or live start, stick welding, and flux cord. Why spend twice the amount of money and buy two machines when you can get it all done with one? You're saving money and space with this beast. And now you can finance one for as little as $55 a month. That's less than the price of an energy drink per day. It's time to get off the fence and take advantage of these great machines and great prices. Check them out today at everlastwelders.com and use Junkies in the comments section to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. It's a $100 value. We're also brought to you by the Step Wedge. The Step Wedge was created by Jameson Burton, a triple-ticketed journeyman in the pipe trades and the inventor and patent holder of the Step Wedge spatterproof wedges. He's a Canadian and he's dedicated to manufacturing high-quality and innovative tools for the pipe welding industry. Step wedges are available in three sizes: 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch, so you can handle any gap that's on the print. The Step wedges are incremental, so you can handle gaps from 3/32 all the way up to a 1/4 inch. And for my friends across the pond in the UK and Australia, they also carry a metric step wedge as well. Each flat surface on the step wedge is machined to within 5 thousandths of tolerance and made from hardened stainless steel, so it won't contaminate your exotic alloys. I just got a set of these bad boys and they're super slick and high quality. The spatterproof wedge is plasma nitride carbon steel, making these wedges nearly indestructible. And right now, Step Wedge has a great deal for listeners of the Junkies Podcast. Right now, you can get 10% off your order when you use code word ARCJunkies in the discount box at checkout. Head on over to gapandtack.com right now to take advantage of this great deal. That's gapandtack.com. Wedges made for professionals. We're also brought to you by Fronius USA. And right now, they're running their Dip into Summer promo where you can get an instant $600 rebate when you buy a Magic Wave 230i in either air-cooled or water-cooled and a Bluetooth accessory. You can choose from the Visor Connect welding helmet or a wireless foot pedal. The Fronius Magic Wave 230i AC/DC TIG machine is another huge step forward in the welding industry. Fronius brings their state-of-the-art welding technology to a brand new AC/DC air-cooled TIG welder. Every time Fronius comes out with a new machine, a new standard is set and the world of welding takes a huge technological leap forward. This machine is no exception to that, and we know you'll be impressed. The Dip into Sales promo is only available until September 30th, so you have until then to take advantage of this awesome deal. Alright, FabTech is less than a month away, so I wanted to let you all know about some of the cool meetups that'll be going on during the week. On Sunday, September 12th, from 7 p.m. to 12 p.m., the FabTech 2021 Welcome Back Meet and Greet, hosted by Blue Demon, Weldporn, Outlaw Leather, Fronius, Alumareel, and FlameTech, will be held at the Hard Rock Cafe in Chicago. On Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 4, you can stop by the CK Worldwide booth for their Meet the Pros event. Then on Tuesday evening from 6 to 9, you can join myself and Stephanie Hoffman at the Arcs and Ales event hosted by the American Welding Society at the Northman Beer and Cider Garden. You can RSVP for this event by going to pages.aws.org/Arcs and Ales. You can also join me Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the AWS booth 30 minutes after the show opens for a live episode of the Junkies Podcast, followed by a meet and greet. Joining me on Monday will be the weld scientist Nate Bowman. On Tuesday, I'll be chatting it up with Rush Kane from Kane Industries, and then on Wednesdays, I'll be chatting with Sean Flomman, aka Dabs Wellington. Can't wait to see you all in Chicago. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machines, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the ARC Junkies Podcast. Helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me is Adam Booth, also known as ABOM79, machinist, welder, YouTube extraordinaire, and world traveler, man. Adam, it's been a while, man. Last time I seen you, I think we were out in Temple, Texas.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It's good to talk to you, good to catch up with you. And yeah, I believe the last time you and I saw, we were out there at the Good Land Fests in Temple.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was a good event. I really enjoyed that. We had a lot of good folks out there. That was cool. You guys stopped by there and did some weld training, for the people that visited, and we just had a lot of people from the community all around.
Yeah,
come out there and hang out.
It was a pretty neat event. I didn't know what to expect. I do like the fact that it was like at an antique. It was like an antique tractor facility.
Right.
Yep. My grandfather was huge into antique engines and stuff like that. So it's like just being on that property kind of brought up a lot of memories of going to the Antique Engine Club and everything up in northeastern Ohio. He was a big fan of yours, and just being in that whole area and everything, seeing the whole YouTube community, come together. And then doing a little bit of blacksmithing while I was there, doing the welding. I think the coolest part is I was there with weld.com and stuff. We had the kind of like a makeshift booth set up, and we were doing weld demos right there, letting people run some like 60-10, 70-18, and like there was this girl there, and I can't remember her name. She might have been like 5 or 6 years old, and all day, she's just like yanking on her dad, on his hand, like, I want to go weld. Like she was all excited to go weld, and he was like, no, you're too young. Finally, they came over to the booth, and they're like, is it okay if she welds? And I was like, oh yeah, no problem, man. We threw a large jacket on her, put her up on like a little cooler. The jacket protected her, put gloves on her and welding hood and everything. And she was so excited. She probably stayed there for like a half hour just running beads. And I think that was like the coolest part of the event, is to see this little kid just so excited about welding at such a young age. That was like the coolest moment of the whole weekend.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That is really cool. I wasn't aware that you had such a young person there that was wanting to weld. When I was there, I was talking to a lot of the visitors, and I was engaged in a lot of conversations. So it's a little harder for me to get around and see a lot of the other events going on at the fest when I'm there hanging out and talking to folks myself.
Yeah, it was hard to get around to see everybody else, because I know 42 Fab was over there doing like the welding fire pits. I know they had blacksmithing going on. The one guy was doing the metal foundry. So that was kind of cool. I got to see a little bit of that. I think we went out Sunday because it was more relaxed. There wasn't as many people, and we got to watch them pour and cast the mini anvils. So that was kind of neat.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Clark Easterling.
Yes.
Windy Hill Foundry.
Yes, you went out and seen him and got to do a little bit of that firsthand, right?
Yeah, I didn't do any of it, but I hung around and got to see some of the pouring that he was doing. Yeah.
No, I meant you got to go to his shop a while back, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to his shop twice now. The past 2 years in April, we have met there at his place. It seems like a good time of the year. It's not too hot yet, and watch him melt some cast iron and do some pourings.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat setup he's got. I guess he takes like old brake rotors and stuff, and he just breaks them into 4 pieces and then smelts them down, and then just makes all kind of castings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much all he uses now is brake discs, brake rotors. He gets them from the brake shop, so he has like an endless supply of them. I think they give him like a really good deal on them, and it's he says that it's a good material that's reliable, that he can cast, and it's always a good machinable cast iron that he pours. So that's pretty much all he uses now for most of his castings.
Okay. So I wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about your machining, because that's one thing that I've always wanted to do growing up. I've always thought that that's one thing that could, couple really well with the welding skill. And that's one thing that you kind of do both of is welding and machining. And,
Right.
so like, how did you, what brought you to machining? What got you into machining originally?
It was my dad. My dad was a machinist, and he was the one that was running our shop. My whole life. Him and my granddad started our shop in 1972. And so I started working with my dad back in 97. That was my graduation year. And I wasn't sure where I was headed after high school there. I just knew that I wanted to get out in the world and I wanted to work. And I had a couple of options ahead there, some things that I thought about doing. But my dad really encouraged me to come and work for him. He wanted me to come to the shop. He wanted to teach me how to be a machinist and help him in the shop. So that's what I ended up doing. Was started working for him my senior year of high school, and I never looked back. I just stuck with it all this time, and I just fell in love with it. I really fell in love with the machining trades, especially what it is I do, the manual machining and all of the old tools and the history, of the machine shop. I just love it all. So Dad's the one that got me into it, and thankfully he did, because it's a great career. I absolutely love it.
It's proven to be pretty lucrative. I mean, it seems like you enjoy what you do. And, when I got to tour your shop, it was really cool because all the equipment you have, like you said, it's all manual machining. And I think
Yes.
that's kind of a lost art to a lot of people. Like most of the programs and stuff like in our area that we have advanced manufacturing, and it's all done on the CNC, the Haas machines. And we just got a new 5-axis thing in. And I mean, it looks like a spaceship, to me as a welder. But I do like, every once in a while I get a chance to run back and use like the manual lathe or the manual mill. And I like those, it's like you're kind of with what you're working on. It's a very intimate experience. You're not drawing something up on a computer file, chalking up a piece of billet and then machining it out. You actually have to take time and figure out, how am I going to fixture this piece? And I think that's one of the biggest components in machining. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you do this for a living. Is figuring out how you're going to hold this part to maintain the tolerance and be able to withstand the vibration from, the different feeds and speeds that you're using on those pieces.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, is the fixturing, work holding, getting something set into the whether you're using a lathe or the milling machine. If you're going to lathe, you got to chuck something up, and a lot of people know that I'm pretty heavy into the 4-jaw chucks. Being able to indicate a part nice and true in the lathe, not necessarily always going to a self-centering chuck, but just depends on the work that you're doing. So that's a really important part of it. And then you have jobs that you got to go to the mill with. You got to figure out how you're going to hold it, how you're going to get everything, how you're going to get the areas that you have to machine true with the spindle. So sometimes it's easy as just clamping in a vise. Sometimes you got to get a bunch of stuff out there, some angle plates, and figure out how to get something indicated in.
So you got to get pretty creative sometimes to be able to figure out what you have to do.
Yes, exactly.
You ever just like weld it to something and torque that down?
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
There's been several jobs like that. That was kind of going back into when I used to do some of the bigger parts. We used to have a big horizontal bore mill at the old shop, and there's several jobs where I actually had to make up fixtures to hold a big workpiece. I mean, for example, we had a big piece of pipe one time in there that we had to machine the ends of. So we had made a big V block for the pipe to set down in, and we ended up just going over there and with my 7018 and just running a few stringers on each side of it to hold it in place, and it worked perfect.
That's pretty. I mean, that would be my go-to. Is just like, I'm going to weld it to this flat part and then bolt that part down. And, that'd kind of be my thing. Cause it gets a lot, it gets challenging, trying to figure out exactly how to fixture that to where, you still have to get your tool access in there, and you have to clamp it to where it's going to hold and the part's not going to fly across the room, and you're not going to, destroy a bit trying to, mill it out or drill it.
Yep. Exactly. There was a couple of jobs. I'm sure there's been several, but like I can recall some big flanges that I had to stand up on the horizontal bore mill. So, you're standing it upright like that. So I had to come in there with some tubing and basically just make some supports that came back and supported it. So the easiest thing to do was to just stick them on there. I would have a big plate bolted to the table, and then I would stand the tube up on that at an angle, and I would just weld it. I would just weld everything right in place.
Okay.
And and then once you're done with the job, you wouldn't weld it in solid. You just kind of make some heavy tacks on there just to support it, and you just cut it off whenever you're done. So it's been a little while since I've done, some jobs like that.
Right. No, it's pretty neat. I've always thought that the two trades went well together, and I think that a lot more people should get into it, at least the manual side. I'm not huge on the automated. I mean, that's like way above what I'll ever need. And if I need something milled out, I can always go talk to the instructor that teaches the CNC portion. But I do like, just being able to get on the lathe. I do a little bit of woodworking at home, and anytime I get a chance to fire up the lathe, I love doing that. I've made like a little hammer, just for beating wood together, and then I made a custom TIG torch handle out of a solid block of, it's like a high temp, not Kydex, but like it's like a high temp epoxy. So just being able to get on there and turn it down and, use the dial calipers and all that stuff to get everything trued up. And I like that because it's a lot more precise than, what I typically do as a welder. Because, you're working to the decimal, and as a welder, like if I can get it within a 16th, usually I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
That's like a mile for you.
Yeah. Yeah, the tolerances are a little different for the fab work and the welding. And there's some jobs I'm working down to 4 decimal places.
Damn.
Typically that's only whenever I'm trying to finish a bearing journal. That has to be precise. You usually got to be within about a 0.5 thousandths of an inch. But usually outside of that, we're within 3 decimal places trying to get something to size there.
Okay. So when did the whole YouTube thing come about?
That started back. The channel started in 2013 is when I actually started putting videos up, and it was just a way to. I wanted to explore that option and try to share some videos of the machine work in the shop. And before that, I was like taking pictures of my jobs and the work I was doing, and I was sharing it on the Practical Machinist forum. And at that time, I wanted to kind of get a little deeper into it, so I got one of those GoPro cameras at the time. They were becoming popular. So I picked up a GoPro and started shooting some video in the shop of some of the work that I was doing, never thinking that it was going to get involved to what it is today. It's just organically grown to what it is. But I wanted to set the camera up, get some shots of the machining, put that on a YouTube channel because I thought it would be interesting to share. And, as soon as I started doing that, I started getting some subscribers and so I just kept rolling with it and improved, started doing a little bit better at the video, trying to improve the lighting, try to improve the audio. And, it's just been a self-learning thing this whole time, how to take video, how to edit video, how to publish them, all that stuff.
So the whole thing was just organic. You didn't set out with, like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to get a bunch of subscribers and sponsors. It was just like, sharing the information you had and kind of progressing from there because you realized that, people are consuming this content. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how like I said, it was just going to be a fun thing to do. Just share some videos. And once I'd started seeing the subscribers, build up there and people engaging in the videos that I was sharing, I was getting I had a lot of great content to share there. And that's why I started. I thought that it would be something there to share that other people would enjoy. Mm-hmm. And, subscribers kept coming. And so we just kept the growth. It's been organic the whole time.
So were you working at like your own facility back then when you started the YouTube channel, or were you working for another company, or you were still working for your father's company?
I was doing both. So I was working for the other company full time. And at the time that I started doing YouTube was right after I had set up the shop at home, the shop that you saw. Mm-hmm. I started moving all that down in 2012. And, so not quite a year later is when I started putting a few videos up. So I was still working full time. I was with Motion at the time. And then I was still, me and my dad were still getting our work done too. So I'd come home and do some jobs at the house. And at the same time, I was setting up the machine shop at the house that you see today in the videos.
And that's a pretty impressive shop. I mean, for, the side for like a at-home shop, I mean, it's a full scale machine shop in there.
Yeah, I've got pretty much all of the most basic machinery that you would need to do machining and some fabricating and some welding. You know, it can get a little cramped in there, but I can knock out some pretty good jobs out of the shop there. So I have 2 lathes, I have 2 mills, and then also have the big shaper, and I've got all my welding machines. I've got some support machinery, you know, press, bandsaw, air compressor, grinders. I got all the basic stuff that one would need to run a small machine shop.
Mm-hmm. That shaper you got that thing's pretty freaking neat. The amount of metal that thing can just shear off. And the funny thing is we're getting a new school built right now. And I was talking to the superintendent, and he's, you know, talking all about ABOM79. We were talking about YouTube videos, and I was like, "Oh, Adam," I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "I'm actually going to have him on the podcast tonight." And we were both talking about the shaper and, you know, how you can just remove massive amounts of metal with that thing. And just to see it in person. It's like, damn, that's a serious piece of equipment to have in a home shop.
Yeah, that's a big machine. That weighs over 8,000 pounds. The one that I have, it's a 32-inch Golden Eberhart. We just call it G&E. And yeah, you can take some massive cuts with that's what those shapers, that's how they were engineered. You know, it's really interesting engineering that goes into those old machines. Those guys that designed that, you know, they got that gearing in there. And you can take some massive cuts with those machines. Mm-hmm. They're just fun to operate. They're fun to watch. It's awesome to stand there and watch that thing make those chips.
Yeah. And I think you had just gotten that offloaded or kind of put right into place when we came up. You did the gold play button for Sam the Cooking Guy. And I think you just got, that was like your newest addition by the time we got up there to do the install on the grill.
Yeah, I think I'd already, it was in place and it was actually working, I believe, at the time that y'all had come in there. Yeah. But that was so that's the last machine that I got, that I acquired, brought it in there, got it cleaned up, fixed it up to get it working right, and using it. So I haven't been using it a whole lot here lately, but I love having something that it doesn't necessarily have to be a job that I'm planning on going to the shaper with. Sometimes I have a project that I look at, I'm like, you know what, that would be a fun job to do over in the shaper, you know, so I'd go over there and do it there. So there's jobs that I could actually do something faster in that machine than set up in a mill. And there's a lot of jobs where you can go to a mill and get something done faster. It really just depends on what it is. And the other thing I tell people too, that would always say, oh, it's faster, just go to the mill. Well, what if your mill, you need to like break the setup down that you have on there to get a job complete, or the shaper sitting right over here, there's nothing in it. I clamp it in a vise, set my tool and go and get it done with. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I can just go to the shaper, knock some metal off, and I'm done with the job.
Right.
Pretty quick.
And you can cut keyholes and all that stuff in there too, right? Or keyways?
Yeah. Yeah, you can cut keyways internal. A shaper is a pretty neat machine because you can do those inside shapes, you know, if you want to. It gets a little involved, but you can do all that. Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty cool machine. I mean, I remember you were all excited about, you know, getting it in and kind of adding it to your collection and everything. Yep. Where do you find the work at? I mean, do you get like, well, yeah, let me start off with that. Where do you find the work for your shop, like your small business and everything? Because you're not just, you know, milling and shaping and, you know, threading and tapping and surfacing and all that stuff just to make YouTube videos. I mean, you actually have clients and you're working on clients' parts and pieces and doing repairs and stuff.
Right. Most of the work that I get now is people reach out to me because of the YouTube. They, you know, people watch the videos, so I'll have people reach out. They'll send me an email and request, you know, work to be done. And I don't take it all in. I take some in, and that's where most of it comes from. I still have a few people around locally that contact me whenever they need work, and I'm here to do it whenever they need. But most of it just gets shipped in from out of state. Really? And I like it that way. It's kind of an easygoing process for me. You know,
you do some big stuff. So I would imagine that your UPS guy hates it.
I got a really awesome UPS guy.
I was going to say,
he's
man,
always in such a good mood.
Every package that comes to your house, he's got to bring it in with a fork truck.
Yeah. I met him out there today. I was out there. I was getting ready to pull my trash cans in, and he had pulled up right when I was walking out there. So I stood there at his truck, while he was in the back, and he come up to the door and he goes, "Oh man, you're making my job easy today," because he just handed it to me, So, but I got a cool UPS driver. He's always real nice.
Yeah, that was going to actually be my next question is, how often do you have subscribers or viewers and fans of the show send you parts and pieces to mill and machine?
Yeah, that's where a lot of it comes from, really. I mean, I still have a lot of my own projects that I do. So I always just try to stay busy with a little bit of mix. I just call everybody customers, so I have customer jobs, which a lot of times is viewers that send me stuff, and then I have my own stuff. And so I'll work on their stuff and I'll work on mine, and just a little bit of everything there.
Okay.
But I usually have several projects there under the table that are waiting, that are in queue for me to get to. And most of the ones that I bring in, I won't say all of them, but most of the ones I bring in are kind of long-term jobs as well. It's not stuff that people are needing right away.
Okay. So
if they do need it right away, it's known up front, and we agree on that before I accept it.
Okay. So you it's not really like a quick turnaround process. When they send it out, they know it's going to be a while before they get it back.
Yeah, it just depends on the project and what it is they need done. There's a lot of folks that have just their personal project, something they're working on, where they need a little bit of machine work to get something fixed or repaired or make something. And so they'll reach out, and a lot of times they're not in a big hurry,
Mm-hmm.
But I just did a couple of shafts. I completed them last week. You'll be seeing them on the channel here pretty soon. I did one of the spray welds out of a rotary low blower, and because we're getting ready to go on this trip pretty soon, I didn't have a whole lot of time there to get them done. So I just went ahead. I told them, I was like, yeah, send them on down here. As soon as they come in, we'll get them done. I'll send them right back to you. So we had all that turned around in just a matter of a couple of days, got all that done.
Okay. And that was it kind of looked like a muffler that you were working on, right? It's like a twin shaft piece side by side that you worked on together, and you did the spray welding and all?
Yeah. So there's a shaft that goes down the middle of it, and then you have a lobe on each side. It's a blower system. And so you have two of them, and they're rotating, they're rotating like that. And it's drawing air through the system.
Okay.
If you can do like a little Google search later and just look up rotary lobe blower, and you'll see it's an industrial blower system.
That's one of the things that caught my eye, because I seen you doing that spray welding technique, and I kind of wanted to, pick your brain on that. Like, how'd you get into that process? Because I had, I'm sure he's reached out to you, Tom Fleming, out of Pennsylvania. I want to say he's out of Pennsylvania, but he's always collecting like antiques and stuff like that. And he got himself a spray welding apparatus, and he was like asking me questions. I was like, man, that's one thing I've never done. But if anybody knows how to use it, it's ABOM. So reach out to Adam, and I'm sure he'd be glad to help. But I mean, how do you get into that? Because there's nothing on the internet that shows you how to use a lot of the system. You the right pressure settings and all that stuff, all the information that goes along with it. So where did you pick that little skill set up at?
I picked that up from Dad too.
Okay.
He showed me how to do it. So apparently back in the, I would say, 70s, it was probably a pretty common process. A lot of shops were doing it, and it goes way back before that too. Eutectic's been around for a very long time. That's the equipment that I use is Eutectic. And so my dad used to do a lot of spray welding. And whenever I started working for him, it was all put away. There was this big case, it had Eutectic on it. It had the torch in there. It had the bottles with the powder. And whenever I had discovered that, back then, I kept asking my dad, like, what is this right here? And he goes, that's the spray welder. I used to use that, but I don't use it anymore. And I just kept pushing him. And I told him, I was like, well, sounds like a pretty neat process. So I finally got him to help me one day. We set it up, and he showed me how to do it. And as soon as he showed me, I thought it was the coolest thing. It was such a great way to repair a lot of shafts that at the time we were going about it a lot longer, harder way to repair things. So he showed me how to do it, and I just ran with it. He didn't want any part of it. He just didn't want to use it anymore. So it was just like welding. As soon as he showed me how to weld, he goes, "You're going to do all the weld now because I'm done. I'm done welding." But I just fell in love with it, and so I have been using the spray welder for probably a good 20 years now, maybe more than that.
It looks like a really cool process. I mean, like, how does it? I mean, you use I'm guessing you use oxyacetylene to operate it.
Yes.
And then it's got like almost what looks like a paint gun on top, but instead of shooting out paint, you've got a flame coming out of it, and then you've got like a little powder hopper in the top of it. Is that just like powdered metal?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a special formula of powdered metal, and there's a lot of different additives in there, kind of like flux on a welding rod.
I was going to say, how do you prepare with the flux and all?
It's very similar to that, but it's in a powder form in it. So the torch is very, even though it looks a little different, what like a rosebud is. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a rosebud, and the bottle has the powder in it, and so you just put it up on the top, and it gravity feeds down into the torch, and then when that powder meets the where the flame is, where it's coming through, it just melts it, and it blows it out at a whatever velocity is coming out there, and then it bonds to the workpiece as it's rotating.
I want to see this process like up close and personal, because I mean, how do you distribute it so precise? I mean, is it coming out in a fine stream or a mist, or I mean, how's that? How are you able to see exactly what you're doing, or you just kind of gum everything up and machine it all off after the fact?
Well, it is kind of precise, but you just have to know the system and be familiar with it to know. You can see it's probably, I've never really thought about it that way, but when you're looking at the stream of the metal coming out of the torch, it's probably about half, maybe 5/8 in diameter, somewhere in that range.
Really? Of
where the powder's at. Yeah. So, I mean, you've probably seen a lot of the videos. It looks like a lot of flame everywhere.
Yeah.
But the stream of metal is much more precise than that.
Okay.
So you're watching it, and you have to do the undercut. So you have to undercut the area you're going to build. Undercut it. I usually go 20, 30 thousandths. You have to cut a little thread on there as well. It helps hold the material. And then when you're ready, you come down and you can see that stream of metal, and you just very slowly keep working it to each side and overlapping your ends. And then, so you put some on there, you back off, and you go in there and you measure it to see what your buildup is at. And you just keep building it up until I usually go to them at least 50 thousandths over your finish size, because you got to build it up enough so that you can have a nice, smooth, journal there at the end.
Okay. It's a pretty uniform. I mean, like what thickness layer are you putting in with each pass as you go back and forth? I mean, what's the thickness like on that?
Well, it depends on the diameter of your shaft. So the bigger the diameter that you are, it's going to take longer to build it up. But like those last shafts that I did for those that lobe shaft, it was such a narrow area that I had to build up. I was really only building up about a half, maybe 5/8 wide area. I came down and I did my bond coat, which was just two passes across there, backed off. I have to make my adjustment for the build-up pass. I came back down and I went across there probably a total of 6 times and backed off, and I was well over the size I needed to be.
Okay.
So it'll build up pretty quick. And that was I can't remember the diameter that I was turning that to. 1 3/16 is what I was turning at. So it wasn't a lot of buildup, but it happened really quick. The whole thing was over in 30 seconds, and
okay.
I had it built up.
Now, what kind of turning speeds are you using on that? Because I mean, you run it on a lathe. I mean, are you running like a high speed, low, or kind of slow?
Yeah, it's kind of a slow. I believe I was running about 180 RPM, and so you want to keep most of them around around 100, 200 RPM. And it's all in the book for the equipment there. It kind of tells you the perimeters that you stay in.
Okay. And then what's that stuff that you're putting on either side of it? I seen you were like applying like a compound, almost like a paste.
It's a masking compound. Yeah.
It's just like a high temp compound.
It's kind of like a paint. So the masking compound is there so that it protects the areas outside of the buildup zone that you don't want the powder to bond to.
Okay, so and then once you get, so I mean that, I would imagine where you're putting that compound at, that's at the thickness that you already need. You don't have to do any machining there. You're just protecting that area.
Yes, correct. It's kind of like I'm sure you use like a, anti-spatter type spray. It's kind of the same concept there.
Okay.
It's just protecting the areas that you don't want the powder to stick.
Nice. It seems like a really cool process. Like I just don't have a practical use for it here in the garage, but I mean, that'd be something kind of neat to learn. I mean, is that common amongst other machinists and stuff that you've seen like in industry, or is that kind of like one of those specialized areas that, not a lot of people know about it?
I think that's it. I think it's really a specialized process that you just don't see much of. I mean, I think there's some videos out there on YouTube. I seem to have quite a few of the actual jobs and showing the equipment, showing it being used. But I think it's a real specialized process. And I only do one small part of that. I mean, they have a lot of other sectors that they are involved with too. A lot of coating, special coatings, and building up, large pieces of equipment. But the system that I use is really good for shaft repair.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was wondering is like, do they have different powders and flux mixes for, the type of material that you're working on? Or like, if you have to hit like a specific Rockwell or Burnell hardness, is there a different type of flux for that for heavy wear surfaces, and then some for mild steel and stainless? I mean, they've got like a pretty wide variety of materials that you can get for it?
Yes, they do. I've got the catalog. That's what I had grabbed earlier there. They have a lot of different powders based on whatever material that you're having to build up. So, they have stainless powders, they have bronze powders, they even have aluminum powders in there as well. But they do have some powders that are very hard that you have to grind to finish them. Okay. So it just depends on the application, but they have something for everybody.
I got you. Now, do you experience any warpage at all because of the amount of heat you're putting into it?
Not at all. Not with this process.
Really?
The process that I use is specifically designed for repairing shafts, and it's actually considered a cold spray process. It's considered that because of the temps that you're keeping the workpiece in, not the temperature of the flame itself. So this process is designed to run between 200 and 600 degrees Fahrenheit. So your workpiece, you never want to get it over 600 degrees. If you do, you back off, let it cool down some, and then, keep doing your buildup there.
Okay. Yeah, that's got to
does it because of the part rotating in the lathe. It's rotating all the time, and you're applying even heat the whole time. And the way that it's building up, you're not going to warp that shaft. That's what I always try to tell people, because you always get folks that ask, why would you not weld it, arc weld it versus spray welding it? That's one of the great advantages of it. When you're welding something, you're almost guaranteed you're going to draw and warp it.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of heat into it, because I mean, like anytime you're welding on it, I mean, every pass that you're putting on there, it's more heat input, more heat input. Because I've seen that before in the past where people would, weld up, or I've welded up like worn down shafts, and then we'd get it machined off. But like trying to prevent that warpage process is the hardest part, trying to keep everything equal but uniform, and then prevent that material warpage. That's the hard part. Even though it's going to go get machined, if you still put a bend in that shaft or anything like that, now it's not true to size.
Yeah. If you're going to build up a big area and you're padding it, and I think that's what they call it, padding a shaft, that's one thing. You can set it up and machine the whole area. But if you just got one localized area, such as a bearing journal or a seal fit that's bad, and you try to weld it up either with TIG, MIG, or stick, whichever one, you're going to warp that shaft. I've done it in the past, and you have to go in there. You got to take other measures. You got to straighten it. You got to do whatever you got to do to get it back to being straight again. Mm-hmm. But with the flame spray system, you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't warp
because it's even, and you've got a much cooler temperature, so you don't have a whole lot of heat input.
Yes. Like with the weld bead, whenever you're fusing those metals together and it starts to cool down, it's shrinking. Mm-hmm. It's drawing it in there, so it causes it. We all know you run a weld bead on a flat piece of steel or whatever, you're going to see it start bending on you.
Yeah, that's the hard part is keeping everything flat and true and everything when you're welding on it. That's my buddy Charlie Cross, him and a couple other guys up in Lincoln. They just put out a great article on preventing material shrink and kind of compensating for it, and it was in the Canadian Welding Journal. It's a pretty good article, and then they're going to come out with part 2, and I think next month. But I was actually stuck up at the airport in Minnesota, and so I read that article, and it's a pretty good article. And I'm not one for reading, but material shrink and warpage and all that stuff. I mean, there's ways to fix it or kind of overstretch your part so that when you weld it, it actually rolls into a flat surface. But it's got to be more difficult on a shaft and stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you do quite a bit of welding outside of the flame welding or the spray welding, is that something that your dad taught you as well?
Well, my dad taught me how to weld initially, and we started with stick welding, 70/18. That was what we had. We didn't even have a MIG welder at the time. I've still got the machine that Dad had bought new. It's a Miller Gold Star 330 ABP is the machine, and it's a big tank, and that's what we started out on. I mean, that's what he always used, but he taught me how to run a bead. First of all, he taught me how to strike an arc. I had never welded before, and so I started working with him, and I picked that up pretty quick too. And he saw that I could do a pretty good job at running a bead and welding up. We had a lot of welding in there. We were always doing build-up work, and we had a lot of structural welding too, where we had to weld parts together that we were building. And I instantly took a big interest in that as well. And so after that, I went ahead and looked up the welding course over at the local junior college, Pensacola State College. And this was back in, so I started with Dad in 97. I believe it was 1998 is when I started taking welding courses. So I did some courses there. We did I took beginner stick welding, advanced stick welding, and then MIG welding and TIG welding and blueprint reading. And then after that, the course, the way it was set up, it was that they were kind of teaching guys how to end up being a pipe welder. Mm-hmm. So they would teach them all the positions, 60-10 and then 70-18, and it always led you into, at the end, you were doing pipe welding. I didn't take it that far because I wasn't welding pipe. That's not what it is I was doing. So I just wanted to kind of better my skills at being a welder, and that's what it did. They also taught us how to braze there as well. That was the first thing we learned how to do, was use a torch to weld steel, steel welding with a acetylene torch, and then braze, and then we moved into the stick welding.
Okay. That's very
That
similar.
was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed going to that class. Everybody there had a good time. We had great teachers in there. It was a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools, makers of heavy-duty welding tables, toggle clamps, magnets, and fabrication tools. If you're a welding student and you want to register your school for a free gift package, head on over to stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies to register. And be sure to visit them at FabTech 2021, booth number 35026, between September 13th and 16th. We're also brought to you by AHP Welders, which are the ideal machines for students, home hobbyists, makers, and those looking to learn how to weld on their own. You can get into stick, MIG, and TIG welding right now for under $1,000 without having to sacrifice performance. I've used these machines several times in the past, and they perform great. Get your AHP machine today at ahpwelds.com. Now let's get back into the show. That's how my welding instructor taught me originally. We had to start off with brazing. And, on steel, we worked our way up all the way up to 3/8 plate. And that's, at the time, I thought that's what welding was. I was like, okay, cool. This is what we're going to do. And then all of a sudden this trailer rolls in and he starts dragging out these big heavy cables and stuff like this plugged into a machine. And I was like, what in the hell is he doing? And he drops, stick electrode in there and he starts welding it up. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? And he's like, oh, this is stick welding. And I was like, yeah, but that's not what we're doing. He's like, no, you're doing, brazing. Okay, so there's different welding processes. Like I was 15 at the time, man. I didn't know shit about welding. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. We got through that, and then I got introduced to MIG welding, and I was like, man, this is crazy. There's just so many different types of welding to get into, and I think that's kind of what got me interested in welding and in going down that rabbit hole is like there's just so many different processes. You know, there's a lot of things to try and master here, and like that's fun to me. You know, is that constant growth. You know, trying to figure out, you know, okay, I'm really good at this process, but I'm not so great in this process. Let me try this one out for a little bit. And, you know, just that constant state of growth and progression.
Yeah. Yeah. I really fell in love with it, you know, learning about the different electrodes. I've still got a lot of different electrodes out in the cabinet. There's probably electrodes out there nobody's ever heard of before, you know, just most people just know about 7018, 6010s, maybe some stainless rods, but I got a lot of real funky rods out there that's been around for probably 30 or 40 years and they still work. But I loved being able to, you know, I of course was trying to better myself with the beads, you know, always trying to improve your weld quality, the appearance of your beads, you know, having the right penetration and everything. So I was really taking a liking in that, and it was real personal to me. So every time I was out there in the shop welding stuff, I was trying to make it as pretty as I could get, you know. So I really prided myself on making good quality parts out there because we did do a lot of weldments there.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think of that 3/4 inch diameter electrode when you came down here to Largo and welded with that thing?
Man, I thought that was just that was an unbelievable experience that I could not pass up, you know. And I don't know if you stay on top of that. Have you noticed how many times that video has been shared on Instagram from other pages?
Oh yeah, I've seen it. It circulates everywhere.
It's like almost every day somebody has taken that video that I've posted and reshared it. And half the time they don't even plug us in that.
No,
in that
and
video.
they're selling T-shirts. It's like, hey, you know, check this cool video out from this guy welding with a 3/4 inch diameter electrode at 1,000 amps. Now buy one of our T-shirts.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that was a really cool process. Being able to, you know, the machine we used and the electrode. And if you know, if that opportunity ever comes up again, I'd do it again. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
it's insane. It's heavy as hell. You don't like expect that. So I actually have one of those Cormet rods in my classroom, and I tell my students, I was like, all right, you know, once you master this 7018 1/8 inch diameter, we're gonna bump you up to like a 532, and then, you know, once you get good with that, you know, I'll reach behind my desk and I'll pull up that 3/4 inch electrode, and they can't believe that is actually a welding rod.
Yeah, it's a little absurd.
Yeah,
when you're used to seeing a normal 1/8 diameter welding rod.
It's a great teaching tool because I think that it's like 38 or 42 inches tall and 3/4 inch diameter, and then with a flux, you know, it's about an inch. But you pass that around the class, and they're like, "Holy crap, you can't weld with this!" And then I'll show them the video. But it's pretty cool to run that thing at 1,000 amps. You know, being able to hold that much amps in your hand at one time,
and hearing it. Like people don't realize what it sounds like unless you're standing there listening to that electricity run through that thing.
It sounds like, you know, a tree hit a power line outside.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the juice running through that thing.
And then like with the spatter that comes off of it is about the size of a shooter marble.
Yeah.
Imagine getting one of those.
And the heat. What I remember most is standing there wanting to try to, you know, finish the weld, but it felt like I was on fire is how hot that was. So you definitely got to have your PPE on if you're going to be using that thing.
Yeah. I think we were running like a shade 14 on there, and it's just like, it's a literal, you know, like usually when you weld with a 7018 rod, like 1/8 inch diameter, you got like a weld puddle, and this is like a weld lake. It's just freaking massive. It's a river of molten metal.
Yeah, I forget. We measured that. It was like, you know, between 2 and 3 inches wide. Yeah, I believe the weld puddle.
I've got a picture on my Instagram. When we did it in Texas with the guys from South Coast Welding Academy. They did a video on WeldTube with it, and I've got a picture of a quarter in the middle of it, and it's like, you know, 4 or 5 times, you know, the width of a quarter.
Oh wow,
it's pretty neat. You know, like being able to go through there and then like chipping it off and seeing the weld that's underneath. I mean, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
The one we did out in Houston, I got a little bit of slag peel on there, but not much. But I mean, it's not meant for what we were trying to do. It was just like, it's a cool thing to experience.
That's exactly what it is. I know you explained it to me. It is a really cool experience. I was going to ask you, when it's done with automation like it was intended to, does it make a better looking weld then?
I would imagine so. I mean, they use it to fill up like slag pots and everything, so they're like for foundries and stuff. But it's done on a tripod, so it just kind of leans forward because, like I was explaining to you when we were there, the rod pretty much runs itself. You just have to hold it, direct it, and let it do its thing, and just kind of lean it in the direction that you want it to go. So they just mount it in a tripod and fire it off, and it just, as that rod shortens up, that tripod, it just starts moving down, and the rod does all the work. But I don't think they'd really care about the appearance, because they're just going to chip it off and, fill it back full of molten metal.
Yeah, they're not out there trying to take Instagram pictures with that.
No, they should. It needs to be more well known and recognized and circulated. I mean, think about how many T-shirts you could sell.
Yeah,
sharing that information.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those. That's a process just like the spray welding. It's just most people are not aware of that it even exists.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware until you guys showed it.
I'd been up to Lincoln a couple times, and they'd always told me about this mythical, 4 foot long electrode, 3/4 inch diameter. And I was like, no way. I thought they were like pulling my leg, and they're like, oh yeah, you can get it, and I was like, okay, whatever. It wasn't until we went out there to Texas, and they say everything's bigger in Texas, and damn if they're not lying, man.
Yep.
Yeah, 1,000 amps. It gets a little warm.
Yeah, it'll definitely warm you up. I mean, to the point where you're wearing your pants and your shirt's on fire. It gets so hot. So, I think when I showed up there to do that demonstration with you, I didn't have my full leathers on that day. I had my welding jacket and my pants.
Right. So I see that you're kind of expanding now. You got a shop going on, a new shop.
Yep. We are getting ready to add to what I have. I have my home shop here, and so we're getting ready to add on an extra 2,500 square foot. That's this other shop that I'm getting ready to occupy, and it's a buddy of mine down the street that is putting this building up. He's got some more back there. He's already been putting up, but this year I knew that he was going to put this new building up that has 4 units in there. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to occupy some extra space to be able to kind of, expand a little bit, maybe add some more equipment. So that's what we're getting ready to do.
Okay. And then I seen that you and Abby released a video the other day. You guys are excited. You got some great news to share that you bought some land up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was a pretty big deal. We've been working on that for about a month and a half or so. And it finally happened. But we've been actively searching for some property for about 2 years now, and we were even just trying to find another house that maybe we could buy, that we can move to, like a nicer neighborhood. I don't live in the best neighborhood around here, but so we just kind of explored a lot of different options. But the ultimate end goal was that we wanted to have some property, preferably like maybe something in the country. Where it's more peaceful and quiet, have a few acres and have a house and a shop. That is actually proven to be pretty difficult to find. And unless you just got deep pockets and you have a pile of money, real estate is just nuts these days.
Yeah.
It seems like even people out in the country are trying to cash in, where you got to drive 30 minutes to an hour away. These people are wanting top dollar for some of this property out there. But we just been actively looking for a long time and never really found anything. And then last year, the real estate market just started exploding again, and it's still pretty much is that way right now. So we just got to where we kind of stopped looking because we have found a couple properties that we were interested in, and it just did not pan out for us. One of them turned out to be wetlands, and still kind of confusing as to why they considered it wetlands, but they said the whole thing is wetlands, can't build anything on it. So we stopped looking for a little while, and then I was searching the real estate online about a month and a half ago, and saw this plot of land, 10 acres with a creek, and it's not too far from here. It's local, and showed it to Abby, and she's like, "Yeah, let's go check that out." So we went up there, we looked at it, we met up with my cousin is a real estate agent here, and she told me, she goes, I'll be glad to help you whenever you're ready to buy something. So I sent it to her. She checked it out. She goes, yeah, let's go by there and look at it. So that's what we did. And we went out there and we fell in love with it. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's undeveloped. So it's just, it's all woods. It's got this really nice creek going through it. And come to find out that it was still available. So we made an offer on it. We did a bunch of our due diligence checks on it. We had a wetlands assessment done. That came out great, and everything looks good. So we went through with the contract, and we are now owners of those 10 acres.
That's awesome,
and
man.
We're really excited because that's going to be the future home for us eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Congratulations. I've always wanted like a piece of property. I always say like 10 acres, and then like I've seen 10 acres, and it's like, damn, that's a lot of area to maintain. Maybe I only need 5, and like, running a freaking lawnmower down here in Florida, and it's like, yeah, I could probably squeak by with 2.5,
Yeah.
But yeah, wetlands.
You got to find the one that's not all grass. See?
Yeah.
There's a difference.
That's
there.
the hard
Ours
part.
is woods. I'm going to have some grass to maintain, but I've seen properties. We've looked at some properties that is just all grass. And I told Abby, I said, I don't want to be out here cutting grass every single day.
No.
I don't want to maintain all that. I want some woods.
Yeah. You got to alternate your yard mowing schedule so the whole thing's never mowed at the same time. You can do the first acre on like Monday and, rotate it around and stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So you're going to put like a home shop out there and just kind of eventually move the entire production out to that new 10-acre property?
That's the plan right there. We want to build a house, and we want to build a shop there, right? Right there together. I like having the shop at home.
Mm-hmm.
I like having my home shop. So that's exactly what we want to do. It's probably going to take a little while for us to get to that point. We got to get with we got a builder that we want to use, but it's just going to take a little while. We want to custom design our own home, and then it'll probably just be just like a standard metal building is what I plan on putting up out there, and then eventually move everything out there. So move from my current shop, so that the shop that I'm getting ready to move into as well, that's just going to be a yearly lease.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that that's not going to be any more than 2 years from right now. I'll actually get to move in October, and I imagine I'm going to be there. I'm going to want to be there more than a year. So I'm hoping it's like a good 2-year plan where we can maybe have a home and a shop at our property.
Okay. That's a good plan, man. I'm excited for you. I think and I seen Abby. She seems super stoked about it. She's doing a happy dance and everything.
Oh yeah. She's going to be real happy. She's got all of her nature out there. She loves animals, so she can't wait to see the deer and the birds. She's hoping she sees an owl. Yeah, she's really excited to be out there. And the other thing that she really likes about it too is that it's going to be on a different side of town where all of your commercial, retail, and restaurants is at. So it's almost like moving to another city almost, even though we're not. It's just a different side of town.
Okay.
So she's really excited about that too.
Nice, because you guys like the woods and stuff, because you do a fair bit of camping and traveling and all that too.
Definitely, yeah. We love the outdoors. We love traveling, camping in our RV, and so that'll probably be the first step. Really, is once I can get sort of like a driveway and get some area cleared out. What we may end up doing is seeing about having a pole barn put up as the first step, so that we can actually take our RV out there and I don't know if we'd leave it out there, but at least take it out there and stay, and maybe go out there on the weekends and stay.
Yeah. So you guys are actually planning a trip now, because you do like a big trip every year.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to leave. We're actually leaving Monday. This coming Monday, we'll be heading out. Last year, we did a big trip the same time of the year. We left mid-August, came back early October, and we started calling it the Big Haul, so it stuck. So that's what we call it, is the Big Haul. And we hope that we can do this every year, maybe an annual trip. We don't know, especially with this new property, and maybe building a house. We may not be able to next year, but we're gonna at least try to do some kind of big trip next year. But yeah, we're getting ready. We've been gearing up. We've been getting the RV cleaned up, repacked, reorganized. I've been, building some things to go on the truck out there on the back of the camper, and we're getting ready to leave. And we are really excited because we got a lot of great places that we're going to.
Where are you guys going this time?
Well, we're going to be going up, and we're definitely going to Yellowstone. So we're going to be seeing that. And we're going to be going back through Colorado and Utah again. We got some places out there that we have not been to yet. We want to see some more of the national parks. So we've got several national parks and some national monuments that we want to go visit.
Okay. You going to hit up Old Faithful, I'd imagine?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's weird.
We got to hit up all the places that you see online. You got to go see those at least, you know.
So I got to link up with you when you get back and find out the best route back, because we're planning one for June, and we're going to go through Southeast. So we're going to go across Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, up into Utah, Colorado, and visit my little brother in Colorado Springs. And we're seriously thinking about going up to see Yellowstone. Once we're going to stop and visit for about 2 to 3 days with my little brother. But we're thinking about, like, do we really want to go to Yellowstone and go 10 miles, like, or 10 hours northwest, and then have to drive all the way back to Orlando when we're done? Because, I mean, like, that'll be the last stop. And then I think it's like 26 or 28 hours from Yellowstone back to my house. And it's like, damn, what are we going to do? What are we going to do on the way back other than drive? Or what am I going to do other than drive and listen to Joe Rogan? So if on your way back, I got to get your travel plans and find out where you went. So if you can be the guinea pig and find out all the cool stuff on the way back, so I'm not like just bored out of my mind staring at cornfields and stuff, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got to find some places that's what we always try to do, is that the way up and the way back, we try to plan everything so that we don't like to drive. I know a lot of people, they'll get in the car, they'll drive 12 hours.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I physically just can't do it. My legs start hurting. I have to get up. So what we like to do, especially when we're actually trying to get to a long destination, is that we'll try to go about 6 hours. That's what we like to do. And I know that's not a lot for some folks, but so we'll get up, we've got our camper. So we get up the day that we getting ready to go, load it up, and then head to the next destination, which is about 6 hours. Sometimes it's maybe 7. And then we have things along the way that we'll stop at. We like to do a lot of antiques. So that's kind of our thing, is that we'll stop at antique shops. And, those areas away from here, you'll find some really good antiques. But there might be some kind of really cool monument you can stop at, or just some kind of really cool, roadside attraction that you can stop and see too. So you really have to try to, like, search Google Maps and find the route that you're taking, and then see if you can plan you some stops along the way. Maybe it's in a city where you're going to go downtown and see the historical district, and have dinner, stay there. And then the next day you head down to another city.
Yeah. That's
I'll get with you after the trip and tell you the way that we went anyway.
That's kind of the plan on the way out, is like, I know we're hitting up a lot of like national parks. We got one up in, there's some sort of spring up in the Panhandle, probably, a couple hours from where you're at. I can't remember the name of the state park, but we're hitting that one up and then heading through Texas. Going to see the NASA space station there out by Houston, and, a couple other parks and stuff on the way out. Hit up the Grand Canyon, and then, the final stop's going to be up in Colorado Springs. But trying to plan that way back from from Old Faithful and Yellowstone National Park, I think it'd be awesome to see it, to bring my kids along. But just trying to find stuff on the way back to see. I've never been to any of those other states, so I'm not sure exactly what to stop and see. So I got to plan it out. So I get with you on the way back and see what you guys ended up going to on the way out and the way back.
Yeah, I'd be glad to talk to you after hours and kind of give you some pointers and see what kind of areas that you're going to. Because you said you're going to go to the Grand Canyon also.
Yeah.
So you're going to Arizona.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to go I-10 west.
Yeah, we're pretty much hitting
Texas.
I-10 all the way into Texas, and then we're making like a real, I don't know, we're hitting, I can't remember the name of the place, Big Bend National Park. So we're going to pop off.
Okay, I was going to mention that.
We're going to pop off I-10 for a little bit, and then, go check that out, and then hop back on I-10 and head back out further west.
Okay. Yeah, that's the corridor that we're kind of hoping that we can do our next big trip.
Okay.
The one that you're talking about going. So in Texas, West Texas, you have the Guadalupe Mountains. I believe that's the national park, Guadalupe Mountains. Then you have the Big Bend National Park. And then not too far from that, it's really, really close. Actually, New Mexico, you have Carlsbad Caverns. And that's a national park as well.
Okay.
So we've never been. That's on our to-do list is Carlsbad Caverns. And then so we're hoping that we can do all that. So do the West Texas, New Mexico, and the Grand Canyon, and then maybe even like Sedona, Arizona as well. That's supposed to be such a beautiful area, Sedona. North of the Grand Canyon, you have the Lake Powell area, Page, Arizona. That's where Horseshoe Bend is. So you could maybe see Horseshoe Bend. The Glen Canyon Dam is right there. There's just so many places in that district there that you can go and see. It's the possibilities are really just kind of endless out there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because when we did we delivered that grill to Sam the cooking guy, we pretty much, it was just like drive for as long as we can, hotel, drive further the next day, hotel. And, all the way until we got to San Diego. And then we got to relax, taking a little bit of scenery. And then the way back, we stopped at, we did Temple, Texas, and then hit up Houston, hung out with the guys at WeldTube, and then, right back through Florida. And we were planning on stopping in New Orleans. But I think by the time we finished up in Texas, we had already been on the road for like 12 to 13 days. And I told the camera guy, I was like, dude, I don't know about you, but like I'm exhausted and I just want to go home and sleep in my own bed. Yeah. I think we're going to have to skip out on New Orleans. He's like, oh man, I'm so glad you said that. He's like, yeah, just beeline to the house, man.
Yeah. That's what we joke about too. Like last year, whenever we were coming home from the big haul, we, like Abby says, we're just going to book it home. We loved our trip and we were gone for a long time, but towards the end, you start dreading that long drive back home. Yeah. And so that's when we're just like, all right, we're just going to try to hammer down for a couple of days and just get these long stints in. But I've actually got a route mapped out to go home this time we'll actually be leaving from Colorado. So we're going to be kind of hitting the same route home, but I'm not going to go through Texas the way I did last time. I want to go a different way. Mm-hmm. So I really want to go through and visit Oklahoma City. So we'll probably take I-40 east through Oklahoma City, stop there because I've never been, and then like over to Memphis, and then from Memphis down the way we go whenever we're headed to Pensacola.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a pretty neat trip.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty exciting. I haven't revealed we haven't really revealed a lot of like where we're going, We always like to try to keep everything a surprise because we have our other channel there, ABOM Adventures, and that's where I publish the videos of our big haul trip over there. Okay.
So are you going to do like little meet and greets on the way or anything like that?
I don't have any meet and greets planned. No, we're just going to do our trip and, whatever happens, but we're not really planning any kind of meetups out there.
Okay. Now, I remember you mentioned you like antiques and everything, and judging from your tool collection, I can confirm that. You got some really cool stuff in there. Do you know if they're doing flywheelers this year? Because I know I was planning on gearing up last year to go. I was talking to Jim Bollinger about getting out there, and with COVID and everything got canceled. Do you know if they're going to do that this year?
It's supposed to be on, yes. And matter of fact, I know they have a show. I think in November. I think they have a show as well that they do. You'll have to check their website, but yes, they are scheduled to be open. The big show that I go to is in February, and we are planning on going to that one.
Okay, I was gonna say if you're going, man, I'd like to link up and hang out.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely be there. It works out good for the last 2 years that we've been. Abby's parents actually own timeshare there in Orlando, and that's a place that they have always loved going for vacation. And so we go there. Her parents set up a condo. We go there and we stay for like a week, and then while we're there, I go down to the flywheelers and do that for a couple of days and come back up to the condo. But they went last year, so they all go down there that day. You know, we all do the flywheelers and then go back to the condo in Orlando. So her parents already have it booked out for this coming February show.
Nice. Yeah, I heard that's the big one to go to. That's when everybody's going to come down and bring all their wares and stuff with them. And you got that's Jim was saying, you got to rent a golf cart because it's so big.
It is. It's very big. You can rent a golf cart, or you can bring your own if you have like a side by side or a four wheeler. A lot of people bring their own homemade contraptions out there. You know, you'll see guys out there with like, lawnmowers that look like tractors. You'll see a little bit of everything out there. It's a fun event because of that kind of stuff there. I have a lot of antiques, a lot of old tractors, just a lot of old stuff out there. And then they have a village there where you can drive around and see all kind of old stuff in there. They have a tractor section where, you'll see all kind of tractors. It's a huge display of old antique tractors. They even have a sand pit there that they have all that old, like, earth moving equipment. Mm-hmm. It's old ancient stuff. They're out there using that, just for demonstration purposes. They have an engine shed where they have a lot of old diesel engines that are running. And they also have the snow engine, which is a big, gigantic gas engine that runs. It was designed to pump natural gas.
Okay.
They have it set up to run on air.
That'd be kind of neat to check out. Like I said, my grandfather was really big into antique engines, stuff like that, and he had this big engine called a Bessemer. And he would fire that up every year at the Antique Engine Show, and it was really cool as a kid going to see it. I didn't really appreciate it when I was that young, but like now growing up, like I'm starting to find like that stuff's actually pretty damn cool, especially compared to all the junk that we buy and gets sold to us today. That's already got like planned obsolescence built into it, so it's designed to fail at some point. So you're going to buy either new parts for it or you're going to buy a whole new item. But things back in the day, they were just built to last, and it's cool to see that old engineering and be like, damn, that was like 100 years ago. The progression that we've made as a society to see that difference and that change.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about going to these kind of events is that you're seeing the heritage, of us progressing on how equipment and tractors and engines have evolved over the past 100 or so years. It's really cool to go out there and see those engines. And you're right. That kind of stuff is never going to be made like that again. So it's great that there's so many people that enjoy it and want to preserve it and restore it and go to these shows like this so that everybody can enjoy it in some way.
Mm-hmm. Now, where'd you end up getting your yellow-eyed dog at?
My what? What's that?
Your yellow-eyed dog? That lantern you got that burns out of both ends.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were talking about. The yellow dog.
Yeah.
Yellow dog. I actually found that on eBay, man.
Really?
Yeah, I found it on eBay.
Okay. That's my grandfather told me the story behind that. I guess back in the day when during the coal miners, they would carry that stuff, as like a way to see, amongst other things, but like off in the distance, that's what it would look like because it's burned that kerosene or whatever they have in there. It looks like a yellow-eyed dog off in the distance.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's the story that I got too. Is that it looked like a dog, but I've only heard that one time. I think Andrew told me that story, Blacksmith Tools. But you're the only second person that's ever given me a story on that lantern.
Yeah, that's as soon as you posted it. I can't remember what you were showing. I was like, I don't know what the hell that you got there in your hand, but that other piece is a yellow-eyed dog, and I haven't seen one of those in years.
Okay, yeah,
but I've never seen where to get them at.
Yeah, I found it on eBay, and then I took it and had it powder coated, and I use it, man. I like collecting old cast iron oil lamps, lanterns, and so I've been building up quite a bit of collection. But I just love them, and I actually replaced the wicks in them. I put a new wick, and I just burned that citronella oil in them.
Okay.
And I have them out back where the barbecue pad is. I have them back there. It helps keep the mosquitoes away. But it also, so I carry them whenever I go camping as well. And I'll set up a few at night and burn those for both mosquitoes and bugs. But it's just cool, man. It's just it puts off a great ambiance. And you won't believe how many people ask me about that. Like,
I would imagine.
What is that you burn it over there, man?
Because I've always seen them on display, but I've never seen them for sale. That's why I was wondering where you got yours at. They're pretty cool. It's a neat piece of history to have.
Yeah, it is very cool. And the other ones that I use it's the it's a single wick, and it's got a handle cast into it too. Same thing. So it was made that you can grab it and, carry it. And I'd love to learn more history on those things because I really don't know much about them, but I knew that they were for the mines, but I wasn't sure exactly the use that they were, intended for back in, say, the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's probably just to see. And I mean, if they were down in Florida, which I doubt, but I mean, keep the mosquitoes away.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good idea. Is putting citronella in there.
There.
Yeah. No, because damn, the mosquitoes, right, especially right after rainy season, man, they're big enough to carry you away.
Yeah, I know it, man. I can't. And then I think it's bad everywhere, but I'm out back trying to barbecue and the flies just come from everywhere. So okay, I've got fly traps back there trying to catch them all. You never catch them all.
So it's not just me. Like every time I fire up the smoker, I got to run fly traps everywhere. It's like I've got my grocery order, like, okay, brisket, pulled pork, jalapenos, cream cheese, fly traps. Got to get fly traps. It's like on my list every year because it draws them from everywhere. As soon as you fire the smoker up, man, they're like right there.
Yep. They come in from everywhere. It's like they have the best sense of smell that anything I've ever seen before. Mm-hmm. All you do is just walk out back with a piece of meat on a cutting board, and all of a sudden they're flying around you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just me. My wife's like, every time I go out there to fire it up, she's like, "It's the damn flies everywhere." I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, man. They're hungry too."
Yeah. To help combat those, I actually buy these fly traps. You can get them at Lowe's. I also bought them at Ace Hardware. Mm-hmm. The latest ones, it's called Pop Fly Trap, but I think it's just called the Fly Trap. And it comes with a bait. It's a real smelly bait. A little powder, you put it in there and you fill it up with water. And man, those things work great. As soon as that stuff melts in that water, and you have flies, those flies will start landing on it, and they just crawl down inside and they can't get back out. Okay. So those work really good. You ought to get a couple of those next season and try them, man.
I'm gonna have to get a couple on Friday because I think I'm gonna do a brisket on Saturday.
Yeah, go give them a shot. Like I said, I got them from Lowe's, but you can also get them from Ace.
And it's just really good. It's just called the Fly Trap.
Yeah, I think the brand is called Fly Trap. Okay. But it's a clear container with a label around it, and then the lid is like a green color. Okay. So it's you'll recognize it if you see that, and it's just a little packet of bait, and you fill it up with some water, and set it. You set it off. I don't know, about 20 foot or so away, because it does put out a smell, and it doesn't smell very pleasant, but the flies love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that a shot, man.
Yeah, give it a shot. It works good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do some brisket this weekend, jalapeno poppers. My wife's like, "What do you want to do this weekend?" And I said, "Absolutely nothing. Like, I've been wide open every friggin' weekend. And last weekend I was up in Tomahawk, Wisconsin for the crew retreat, and we were actually at Case Tomahawk, so Case Heavy Equipment, Case Tractors. We went up to their retreat area for a board meeting, and it was just a beautiful area. But I had a bunch of layover and canceled flights and everything, and it was a pain in the ass. I ended up staying at this tiny airport. It's just a little bit bigger than a phone booth for about 9 hours. It was freaking miserable. So this weekend I don't want to do anything. I'm going to fire up the grill, kick back, relax, might clean out the garage a little bit, and just chill at the house for a little bit. So
that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, have a couple beers.
Have you something cold to drink, sit back on your lawn chair, and cook some brisket.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to it. Well, Adam, it was great having you on the show. Before we get out of here, go ahead and plug all your social media, especially your travel stuff. I wasn't aware of that, as well as your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so we'll just start off with the ABOM79. You can find me over on YouTube, ABOM79. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram as well, because that's a good place that every day, we're sharing pictures or videos of whatever it is that we're getting into in the shop. And, so even stuff outside the shop, a little bit of RV stuff, sometimes a little bit of cooking, but YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for ABOM79. And then for the travel stuff, if you guys are interested in following us with our RV and our travel and exploring, that's called ABOM Adventures. So you can find us on YouTube. You can also find us over on Instagram under ABOM Adventures as well. And then if you guys are into barbecue and cooking, I've got an ABOM Barbecue Instagram page. That one's kind of new, but I like trying to share my daily barbecue and cooking over there on that.
Okay. I'm just following the travel channel and the ABOM barbecue. Dude, I love getting different recipes and stuff like that. My buddy Kyle Linko, he shared a recipe on smoked Oreos, bacon wrapped Oreos. And
no kidding.
I'm like, man, I don't know about that. He's like, just don't judge me, just try it. And I was like, okay. And I was supposed to do it for my kid's birthday, but I didn't get around to it. So I think this weekend I'm going to do it because Monday's my birthday. So screw it. I'm going to have a couple bacon wrapped Oreos. So
there you go, man.
I think
you
I deserve
gotta
it.
give it a try.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. It was great having you on. Have fun on your road trip. And then once you get back, man, I'll reach back out to you. And, I'm going to check out your adventures along the way and everything and just kind of start planning my trip as well.
Yeah, over on the ABOM Adventures, I was just going to mention this real quick. I do what I kind of consider a vlog series over there. So while we're traveling, we take videos of pretty much all the places we go, sometimes from point A to point B, sometimes it's campgrounds, but definitely like when we hit those big points of interest, such as Yellowstone or anything major like that. So if you want to go over there to ABOM Adventures, you'll be able to kind of follow along as the big haul advances.
Nice, man. Well, I appreciate you coming out, bud.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's always good talking to you.
You as well, man. It was great seeing you again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this week's episode. Thanks once again for downloading. I really appreciate the support. You can follow the show on Instagram at Junkies Podcast. Email me directly, show@arcjunkies.com. And you can pick up Arc Junkies merchandise by visiting arcjunkies.com. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.